my channel, it is about Uber, carpool with Shrey. Okay. And I talk to the people and just record stuff here on the camera and record audio, and we go from there.
Okay.
Right. There is a YouTube channel where I'm going to be posting. I haven't posted anything. Today's my second day that I'm doing it. It's a new concept that I really want to try and see where this thing goes, because you never know. And podcasts are very popular right now. A lot of people are doing it, so might as well I do it as well.
Yeah.
So hey Jacob, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, man. Thank you for asking, and thank you for agreeing doing this podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on here.
No problem, man. So would you like to tell some of your interests, like things that you like to do besides work, of course?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of interests. One of my foremost interests, I would probably say, is running. I've been running for a long time.
Oh, nice.
I ran in high school. Didn't get to run in college because I didn't go to college, but I did have a scholarship to go for running, and I enjoy it.
You enjoy
that
running?
Relieves my mind, allows me to connect. It's a form of meditation, but also keeps you healthy.
Oh no, for sure.
So.
Do you run long distance or short? Long distance.
My primary distance is probably a 10K. Right now, I'm trying to build myself up to a marathon. I ran a marathon one time. That was when I graduated high school, but did a very poor time. Man.
Oh man, you did it. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but it was an interesting experience. I just didn't train well enough for it.
Yeah.
But long distance is definitely what I gravitate towards. I definitely don't do short distance. I'm not a sprinter. Yeah.
Have you tried sprinting or no?
No, I've tried sprinting, especially in high school. It's just my genes are not built for it.
Oh yeah. In the running, those things matters really, how and your steps and your leg style and all that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of factors
goes in there. So no, why did you decided running rather than any? Is there any specific reason that you chose running, or you just like to run from?
You said hobby,
Yeah.
And I enjoy running. I love going to races. I sign up for races, and it's a communal sport. I don't know why I picked running. It's probably a huge part of my life, to be honest, and it has been for such a long time that it's a pretty easy, hobby that comes to mind in a situation like this.
I personally think it's very good to have any kind of sports or activity which makes you move from one place to another, which keeps your mind active and help you cope with many other things. And I like how you said it's form of meditation.
It is, yeah, and especially I have a pretty stressful job. I'm under a lot of stress a lot of the time. If you ever glimpsed into the world of transportation, it's pretty normal, and running is one of those things that helps me cope with that stress because it allows my body to relax and put effort, and also just gives you more energy over time too. It's just one of those things. But among running though, I'm an avid reader. Love going to seminars, stuff like that. Anything to do with the museum, I'm there. So a lot of hobbies.
What kind of museum you go to?
I like scientific museums. I also like art museums. I'm a huge fan of art. I think it's pretty cool. We have a pretty amazing art institute here in Chicago.
Yeah.
I've been to it a couple of times. I still have not seen, the entirety of
anything better than that.
Yeah.
That's very good, man. You said you also do reading yourself, right?
I'm an avid reader.
What kind of books that you like to read? I personally read myself as well, but I do more of a listening job. I can't read for some reason. It just makes me sleepy, and I really feel respected people who can read for a long period of time for any kind of stuff, because it takes a lot of imagination. You have to think, I think, twice as hard if you are reading, because you have to imagine the whole thing for you to feel it.
Watch something. It's all imagined for you.
Yes, and listening, it's again a little bit easier than reading, I personally think. But yeah, sorry, I'm gonna let you speak. What kind of books you personally read, or what kind of things you like to read?
I've got a pretty eclectic taste. You know, when I was younger, I mean, I've been a reader for a long time. It's probably like that used to be my thing when I was growing up. I used to read a lot because I didn't get to do other things that other people did. But I've gravitated towards more like educational content now, right? Like more self-help like type of reading, and anything that helps me learn something. I'm interested in reading it. You know, anything that helps like ignite that interest in something. I love reading. But I also love stories, and I love poems, and I love poetry. Honestly, I didn't used to as a kid. Definitely, that's one of the things that I grew into.
Poetry is one of the very highly, I wouldn't say very highly educated, but it's give you a different perspective of the same thing that you are seeing normally, but the person who writes the poem has the whole another perspective, and it's just mind blowing.
So it's open for interpretation.
Yes.
It's like a form of art in a way.
Yes, you're correct. Yeah, you can do anything with a poem. You know, you can create so many stories out of poems, and it's just very fascinating to me.
Yeah, you know? And I love how poetry can impact the way you take in what those words are saying too. Because there's more than one way to say something.
Yes.
Right? And by making it in the context of poetry, the impact is somehow felt more by the people reading it. You know, and you're right. Sometimes there's discrepancy between what the author intended for you when he initially wrote the poem versus what you take away from it. Yeah.
Yes. So what is your reason to read poem, or you being into poems from the beginning?
Well, like I said, it wasn't always an interest for me. I used to find poetry pretty boring when I was younger, but over time, it just, I don't know, I read a couple of poems that just like accurately reflected situations I was going through. And,
yes.
The way you felt.
You were able to connect to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I was able to relate to poetry in a way I hadn't before, and that really changed the way I saw it. And then that just enabled me to like go and explore some more and discover more poetry. But
nice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man.
It is pretty awesome, the way you describe it, the poem and the books, man. You're a pretty interesting person. The things that you read and things that we do, we have somewhat of a similar interest, but in different fields, of course.
Yeah.
You know, you say you like running. I'm into somewhat of a fitness. I like exercising. I do weightlifting, and it's just my form of meditation. How you say you like running. Speaking of running, what's the longest have you run?
Would be the marathon.
The marathon?
Well,
you're going or you been into one in the previous?
I ran marathon when I was 18.
Oh shit, okay.
Yeah, so like right after, actually I was just about to graduate high school, and I wanted to try running a marathon because, like I said, I've always been better at distances. I'm better at locking down a pace and going for a long while than sprinting, but yeah, that's the longest distance I ran. I haven't ran that in a long time.
What was the distance again?
It's 26.2 miles.
26.2 miles. Damn, that's long.
It's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles. That's like from suburbs to Chicago all the way.
Yeah. And when I made the mistake of not training properly, you know how like you have a bit of an arrogant mind when you're younger.
So what do you have to train? Like, how do you train for a marathon?
There's a combination of things, right? Like first, I already have built a base. When it comes to running, you have to build a base, and you build your base by just putting in the work, right? So the more mileage you do, the better your like physical ability is going to be, and then gradually you're introducing speed, because you have to also build speed along with endurance, because I mean distance running is all about being able to maintain a certain pace for a certain distance. And so when I was training for my marathon, I was running like over the weekends, there were days I was running like 16 to 18 miles, on a training session. I was running probably 80, 90 miles a week, which is a lot.
Did you start it at 15, 20 miles, or did you start it at running 1 mile?
I started running when I was in middle school, right? Okay. So I had a long time to build a base, and I gradually built it. And by the time I was in high school, our team was decent. We actually won state
run this much, how much were you eating when it comes
You
to
eat a
food?
lot.
You
Yeah.
eat a lot?
You eat a lot. I don't know exactly what my calorie count was. 'Cause I wasn't
well,
keeping track of it, but I know I was consuming enough food for like 3 people. You know, probably. Because you're burning.
You're burning a lot of calories.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all it is.
So do you eat any like clean food or just eat whatever you find to eat? And,
Yeah, so I try and gravitate towards clean food.
Mhm.
I do a poor job of that just because it's time consuming for one. and it
that is
takes
hard.
effort,
Yeah.
You know, and
It's very good.
the downside to the culture we live in is like we trade a lot of things for convenience, right? One of the things we trade for convenience is our health because like when you're talking about the convenience of time and it's easier to just pull into the drive-through versus, going home and taking the time to cook a healthy meal,
You're right. You're right. It's very hard when you running long distance running is pretty hard. I tried running a mile maximum and it just drains me out so much. But you've done quite amazing job, honestly.
But see, like
Running 90
I'm good
miles
at
per
running,
hour.
and it comes naturally to me, right? So there's other things that I'm terrible at, like that you would be good at too.
I mean, there is no comparison. You are
Yeah.
good at something, I'm good at another thing, and we're just good at whatever we do in our world. But 90 miles per week you are running. That's
intense.
impressive. That's very impressive, man. To find time, like how long, when you say you run 10 to 11 miles per day, almost averagely.
Well, okay, so this was back in high school. I don't
Yeah.
run that now.
No.
Right? Back then, it was a lot easier to
Yeah.
find the time because,
You didn't have-
sports was right after school.
School,
Go to
yeah.
sports and go for a couple hours. I didn't have any other obligations.
Mhm.
Back then, it was much easier to do. Now it is actually tough to find the time for that type of
Long running.
Yeah, that type of intense training
Mhm.
because you're pretty much working out every day. The days you're not working out, you're doing other things.
Other
like
things,
stretching,
yes,
icing,
yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah, for long running you have to do those things for the recovery period and all that stuff.
Yeah, because one of the things like running is very, very hard on your body because it takes, it's taking a lot of impact
Mhm.
all the time.
Yes.
And your joints especially. And the older you get, the less, flexible your body is.
Body is.
And so the more important like stretching is and icing and recovery and stuff like that. And that goes back to what I said earlier. Because when you're younger, you have a sense of arrogance towards some things. And one of the things I used to hate doing as a, back then as a runner was like doing a pre-trip or post-trip warm-up or cool-down.
Whoa.
Doing your stretches.
So
before
what
you
is,
start running.
I'm sorry to ask you, but what is preacher proportion stretching?
Like, so pre-trip, like warm-up is just getting your body ready for the run, right?
Run.
So there's exercises that you do, and then post-trip, like cool down. So there's a phase where you run with the intention of cooling your body down, because you don't want to go from like running all out to just stopping, because then your recovery is impacted when you do things like that. So having a cool down run afterwards and then dynamic stretching, versus static stretching after your runs, dynamic stretching before your runs. There's a difference in those is in like the length of the length of time you hold the stretch for and the intensity of it, and the intention going behind that. Because they've discovered that static stretching is not good for your joints and your muscles before a workout.
Before workout,
Yeah, it just elongates.
The static stretching are the one where you stretch your body parts for a long time,
Exactly,
right? And the dynamic one where you can freely move your body in a little bit faster pace and able to stretch it out
It's
from
like
there.
the static or dynamic stretching is the intention of like opening up your body and getting your
Yes.
full range of motion
Yes.
going versus when you're doing static stretching you're just relaxing the
Mhm.
muscle.
Muscle.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Increase
Um,
elasticity.
It's very complex. It's very complex than people think. When you said cooling down the run means, let's just say you're running, for an example, 3 miles per hour for a long period of time. You cool down. That means you cool down as in walking or fast walking, or
So you can do that. Depends on what level you're at, right?
Mhm.
But cooling down can just mean like you're taking the intensity of the workout down significantly, right? So let's say that I'm doing interval training, right?
Mhm.
Like high intensity interval training, which is a part of like distance running too. It's just a different type of interval
The
instead
HIIT
of
cardio,
sprinting
right?
all out,
Yes.
you're going for an intense period of time for, like, let's say 2.5 minutes.
Whoa.
So you're not going full speed, but you're going almost full speed.
Almost.
And then,
Which is around like 10 miles per hour, 9
you
miles
know what?
per
I
hour.
wouldn't know what it is in converted to like miles per hour.
Because
I
it's-
just know because we keep track of it like 7 miles or 7 minutes per mile.
Oh, per
So
mile.
minutes per
Oh,
mile.
like that. So
Yeah.
the lap time.
Yeah.
Lap time.
Exactly.
How you
Yeah.
guys do? Okay.
So you go from, and it depends on your level and where you are in your training. Like I wouldn't be able to do the same kind of workouts I was doing in high school now. You
Of
know?
course, yeah.
But yeah, and then the cool down period is just like afterwards when you can just be jogging and just letting your body calm down the intensity, calm down a little bit. Your heart rate goes down, and by the end of your cool down run, you're barely jogging, pretty much. You can walk at the end of it if you prefer. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah.
Nice. Another question I had was, speaking of podcasts, you say you listen to podcasts, right?
Yes.
Any specific podcast that you would like to tell people?
Yeah, of course. I like listening to TED Talks.
Oh, I do that too.
That's probably one of my favorites and has been for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I like listening to what is his name? I think it's Fight Freeman.
Fight
I'm
Freeman?
remembering. Hold on. He's probably one of my favorite podcasters. He has really interesting conversations with like people about all kinds of things, like different types of technology and like different social issues and things like that. I'm always fascinated by like current events and history.
History?
Yeah.
What do you think about?
definitely interesting.
What do you think about technology shift which is coming in right now in the NFT and cryptocurrency and stuff like that?
It's kind of tough to say, man. I mean, I don't think cryptocurrency is going away anytime soon. The most fascinating thing about cryptocurrency and like when Bitcoin came around and what it created was blockchain technology.
Yes.
And how like incredibly adaptable that technology is, and even within like the world of transportation, there's ways you can use blockchain technology to enforce like not authenticity, but that's not the word I'm looking for. To enforce honesty, transparency. Like
You're right.
You can't
You're
hide.
totally right.
You know, you can't lie because of the way that the
The
technology
technology is designed, yes.
I think it's fascinating. Bitcoin, it scares me, man. I like the idea of having a form of currency that's not regulated by government. That is pretty nice, but there's also downsides and risks to that too.
What do you think are the downsides and risks?
You know, I couldn't even say, to be honest with you.
Honestly,
it's an idea
yeah.
that scares me.
Yes.
And that's not a good thing either, because that's fear is unfounded in anything logical, but I think that's just natural. Right?
It's just like when the currency came out, a lot of people were printing fake currencies and trying to scam people with the fake currency. I'm not sure if you know that, but things are happening. They are launching any kind of currencies, like fake currencies, which they think that it's going to do
like
something.
Like cryptocurrencies.
In cryptocurrencies, yeah,
exactly.
you know.
There's hundreds of them.
There are many of them, you know. Just like that, there are many business which is related to those things, and bringing so many issues. But I hope the more these things will follow up, the more educated people are going to be. So whenever the time comes to adapt this technology, people won't be afraid. The same thing happened with credit cards, same thing happened with insurance, same thing happened
Anytime
with
like a
currency.
big shift happens, there's that fear
Yes.
of the unknown.
And there are people are going to be who are scared. There are still people who are scared to use mobile banking app. I'm not sure if you know those people, but people think that they'll get scammed if they use mobile banking app, and they just prefer old way to make a transaction. They have bank accounts, but they still won't make transaction on the cards because they think people will steal their information, and many things can be done, you know. There are scammers who can actually even take your credit card information if you swipe your card in specific
Yeah.
devices. As you said, yes, I'm sure you know that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about,
data
right?
breaches are a real thing.
Yeah.
People should be scared.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine how many countless databases there are with all of your information stored.
Yes.
Every time you swipe your card to anything.
Mm-hmm,
You know, anytime you go on a website and you put in your personal information, somewhere in the world it's being stored.
Yeah.
You know, and people will eventually get access to that, and that's a high risk. And a lot of that, people haven't taken that seriously until recently.
Mm-hmm.
There's been definitely been a shift in that. But you're
Yes.
right, there are people who are stuck in the old ways of thinking.
Yeah, man. But hey, Jacob, it was very nice talking to you. We are
too, man.
here by your spot, and I'm gonna drop you off. It was very nice talking to you.
You too, man.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
the ride.
You're welcome. Do you want to shout out anything to yourself?
No, that's okay.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you,
just
man.
listen to the
Take care.
conversation.
Thank you so
You
much,
too,
man.
bro.
Take care. Take care.
So-
It was very nice talking to you.